Have you ever felt stuck, like you're holding on to something, an idea, a grudge, a plan that no longer serves you? We've all been there. We cling to certainty because uncertainty feels terrifying. We hold on to relationships that drain us, jobs that suffocate us, and beliefs that limit us. But what if I told you that real power, real strength, doesn't come from holding on, it comes from knowing when to let go? Today, I want to challenge the way we think about control, success, and resilience. Because the truth is, letting go isn't about giving up. It's about creating space for something greater. We fear letting go because we equate it with loss. We think that if we let go of a relationship, a job, a belief, or even an old version of ourselves, we are somehow giving up, admitting defeat. But the reality is, letting go isn't about losing. It's about making space. It's about clearing out the things that no longer serve us so that something better, something more aligned with who we are becoming, can take their place. Imagine holding onto a rope. At first, it feels secure. It gives you something to grip, something to rely on. But what happens when that rope starts burning your hands? What happens when holding on starts causing more pain than letting go ever could? The longer you hold on, the deeper the damage. The fear of falling keeps you clinging, but in reality, the moment you release that rope, you free yourself from the pain. And that's the paradox of letting go. It feels like a risk, but in most cases, it's the only way forward. We see this fear in all aspects of life. We stay in relationships long past their expiration date because we're afraid of loneliness. We hold on to jobs that drain us because we fear uncertainty. We cling to outdated dreams because we're scared of admitting that our needs and desires have changed. But what if we reframed letting go? What if, instead of seeing it as an ending, we saw it as an opening? Because that's what letting go really is. It's an opening. It's the moment we stop resisting change and start embracing what's next. And the people who understand this, who master the art of release, are the ones who truly thrive. Think about some of the most successful individuals, the ones who seem to navigate life with an effortless sense of purpose. Do you think they got there by clinging to things that no longer worked? Or do you think they got there by knowing when to pivot, when to evolve, and when to trust that moving forward requires letting go? The truth is, you cannot step into the next chapter of your life if you're still rereading the last one. And yet we resist. We resist because familiarity feels safe, even when it's no longer serving us. We resist because we tell ourselves that holding on means we're strong. But strength isn't measured by how tightly you can grip something. Strength is measured by your ability to release what no longer aligns with you. Look at nature. Trees shed their leaves every autumn, not because they are dying, but because they are preparing for new growth. A snake sheds its skin not because it is weak, but because it has outgrown the old layer. The river keeps flowing not because it is lost, but because it knows that movement is the key to life. Everything in nature understands the importance of release, so why do we struggle with it so much? One reason is control. We want to believe that if we hold on long enough, things will change in our favor. We convince ourselves that with enough effort, that relationship will improve, that job will start fulfilling us, that old dream will magically reignite. But here's the hard truth. Holding on to something that isn't right for us doesn't make it right. It just prolongs the inevitable. And this is where trust comes in. Letting go requires trust. Trust that what's ahead is better than what's behind. Trust that life has a way of filling the spaces we create, and trust that we are capable of handling whatever comes next. Think about a time when you finally let go of something you were afraid to release. Maybe it was a toxic friendship. Maybe it was a belief that limited you. Maybe it was a version of yourself that no longer felt authentic. At the time, it felt impossible. But looking back, can you see how that release created space for something better? Can you see how what once felt like loss was actually a gain? Letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending something didn't matter. It's about acknowledging its place in your journey, while recognizing that you don't have to carry it forever. It's about honoring the past without letting it dictate your future. And the moment we understand this, the moment we embrace the power of release, is the moment we stop fearing change and start embracing the possibilities it brings. Emotions are powerful. They shape the way we see the world, the way we interpret situations, and the way we respond to challenges. They can fuel us with energy or drain us completely. They can make us feel invincible or paralyze us with fear. And yet, most of us were never taught how to understand our emotions. We were only taught how to react to them. From a young age, we learn to categorize emotions as good or bad. Happiness, good. Excitement, good. Fear, bad. Anger, bad. Sadness, definitely bad. And so, when we feel emotions that fall into the bad category, our instinct is to either suppress them or let them take over completely. But emotions are not the enemy, and they're certainly not commands we are obligated to follow. What if, instead of treating emotions as absolute truths, we started treating them as information? What if we saw them for what they really are? Data. Because that's exactly what emotions are. They are signals, messages from our minds and bodies designed to help us navigate the world. They are not orders. They are not facts. They are not directives telling us what to do. They are simply data points. And like any data, they require interpretation. Think of a fire alarm. When it goes off, it doesn't mean the building is definitely burning down. It means you need to check the situation. Maybe there's a real fire, or maybe someone just burned their toast. The alarm is a signal, not a final conclusion. Emotions work the same way. Fear doesn't always mean run. Sometimes it means pay attention. Anger doesn't always mean attack. Sometimes it means something important is being threatened. Sadness doesn't always mean hide away. Sometimes it means you need to process and heal. But most of us don't pause to interpret our emotions. We react to them. We let them dictate our actions without question. Think about how often we make decisions purely based on emotions. We feel insecure, so we hold ourselves back. We feel angry, so we lash out. We feel afraid, so we avoid taking risks. But when we let emotions control our actions without analyzing them, we aren't making conscious choices. We're operating on impulse. Successful leaders, great thinkers, and emotionally resilient people have one thing in common. They don't let emotions drive their decisions. They listen to them, they acknowledge them, but they don't blindly follow them. Imagine you're in a difficult conversation. Someone says something that upsets you, and suddenly you feel anger rising. Your instinct is to snap back, to prove a point, to defend yourself. But if you treat emotions as data, you pause. You ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What is this telling me? Is my reaction going to help or hurt this situation? This small moment of awareness makes all the difference, because now, instead of reacting, you're responding. You're making a choice, not letting the emotion make it for you. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It doesn't mean pushing them down or pretending they don't exist. In fact, the opposite is true. The more you acknowledge your emotions, the more control you have over them. Suppressing emotions doesn't make them disappear. It just buries them deeper, where they grow and resurface in unpredictable ways. Think about it like this. If you have a check engine light flashing in your car, you wouldn't just cover it up with a piece of tape and pretend everything is fine. You'd investigate, you'd figure out what's wrong and address it. Ignoring emotions is like ignoring that check engine light. It doesn't fix the problem, it just delays the consequences. So what does it look like to treat emotions as data in real life? It means recognizing fear, but not letting it stop you from taking action. It means acknowledging disappointment, but not letting it define your worth. It means feeling anger, but choosing to communicate instead of retaliate. This is emotional resilience. The ability to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. The ability to use emotions as guides, not as dictators. The ability to take a step back and say, I see this emotion, I hear what it's telling me, and now I will decide what to do with it. And when we learn to do this, when we stop reacting and start responding, we gain something far greater than control. We gain clarity. We gain freedom. We gain the ability to move through life with intention instead of letting emotions make the choices for us. We live in a world obsessed with results. We measure success by what we achieve, what we accumulate, and how quickly we get there. We chase the final product, the job title, the milestone, the recognition, believing that once we reach it, we'll finally feel fulfilled. But what happens when we get there and the feeling doesn't last? What happens when the outcome we were so desperate to reach turns out to be different from what we expected? The problem isn't the goal itself. The problem is how we fixate on the outcome while ignoring the journey that gets us there. Because here's the truth, the process is where growth happens. The process is where resilience is built. The process is where we become the kind of person who is capable of handling the success we seek. But trusting the process is hard. It requires patience in a world that demands instant gratification. It requires faith when there's no guarantee of how things will turn out. It requires showing up day after day, even when progress feels invisible. And that's exactly why most people struggle with it. We want to control every step, predict every outcome, and ensure that our efforts pay off exactly as we envisioned. But the reality is, the path to success is rarely linear. It twists, it turns. It forces us to pivot, to adapt, to let go of the illusion that we are in complete control. Think about anyone who has ever achieved something great. The artist, the entrepreneur, the athlete, the leader. Did their journey go exactly as planned? Did they achieve their success overnight? No. They struggled. They failed. They faced uncertainty. But they kept going. Not because they knew exactly how things would turn out, but because they trusted that the process itself was shaping them into the person they needed to become. And yet, most of us resist this. We become frustrated when things take longer than expected. We feel defeated when obstacles appear. We want guarantees before we take risks. But what if the delays, the challenges, and the detours aren't setbacks? What if they're part of the process, teaching us lessons we wouldn't learn otherwise? Imagine a person training for a marathon. Their goal is to cross the finish line, but if they only focus on race day, they'll miss the point. The real transformation happens in the months of training, the early morning runs, the sore muscles, the days when they want to quit but keep going anyway. By the time they reach the starting line, they're not just someone who wants to finish a marathon, they've become a marathon runner. The process has shaped them into the kind of person who is capable of achieving the goal. The same is true in every area of life. Success isn't just about reaching the finish line, it's about who we become along the way. But trusting the process also means letting go of rigid expectations. Because sometimes the outcome we're chasing isn't actually what we need. We think we want one thing, but the journey reveals something even better, something we never could have planned for. Think about a time in your life when things didn't go the way you expected, but in hindsight, it turned out for the best. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, but it led you to an even better opportunity. Maybe a relationship ended, but it created space for something more fulfilling. Maybe a failure forced you to grow in ways you never would have otherwise. This is the beauty of trusting the process. It frees us from the need to control every detail and allows us to embrace the unfolding of something greater than we imagine. But most people don't see it this way. They get discouraged when things don't happen on their timeline. They give up when they don't see immediate results. They resist the discomfort that growth requires. But the truth is, if we only chase the outcome, we miss the lessons the process is trying to teach us. If we only care about the destination, we overlook the journey that is shaping us. And the irony? The people who achieve the greatest success, the ones who truly thrive, are not the ones who obsess over the results. They're the ones who fall in love with the process itself. The ones who embrace the challenges, the uncertainty, and the setbacks as part of the journey. Because at the end of the day, Success is not just about what we achieve, it's about who we become along the way. And the only way to become that person is to trust the process, even when we don't yet see where it's leading. We spend our lives holding on to people, to expectations, to outcomes, to the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what our lives should look like. We cling tightly, believing that the more control we have, the more secure we will feel. But in reality, the tighter we hold on, the more we suffer. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means apathy, that to be detached is to be indifferent, unemotional, or disconnected. But true detachment is not about caring less. It's about experiencing life fully without being ruled by it. It's about engaging with the world without being enslaved by it. Detachment doesn't mean we stop loving, it means we stop controlling. It doesn't mean we stop striving for success. It means we stop defining our worth by it. It doesn't mean we stop feeling emotions. It means we stop letting them dictate our actions. Because attachment is the root of so much suffering. When we attach ourselves to specific outcomes, we set ourselves up for disappointment. When we attach ourselves to the way things should be, we resist the way things are. And in that resistance, we create unnecessary pain. Think about how much of our stress comes from attachment. We attach ourselves to a job title, and suddenly losing that job feels like losing our identity. We attach ourselves to a relationship, and suddenly its struggles feel like personal failures. We attach ourselves to an outcome, and suddenly anything less than perfection feels like defeat. But what if we could let go, not in a way that makes us stop caring, but in a way that frees us from suffering? Imagine you're holding a handful of sand. If you grip it tightly, trying to hold on to every grain, what happens? It slips through your fingers. But if you hold it with an open hand, it stays. This is the paradox of detachment. The less we force, the more we allow. And yet we resist detachment because we confuse it with losing control. We believe that if we let go, things will fall apart. But control is an illusion. No matter how much we plan, predict, or prepare, life unfolds on its own terms. Detachment isn't about giving up. It's about accepting what is without unnecessary suffering. Think about the things that cause you the most frustration. Is it really the situation itself? Or is it your expectation of how that situation should be? A missed opportunity isn't painful because of what it is. It's painful because of what we thought it was supposed to be. A difficult conversation isn't stressful because of the words spoken. It's stressful because of our desire for it to go a certain way. A change in plans isn't frustrating because of the change itself. It's frustrating because of our resistance to it. Detachment allows us to navigate life with more ease. It gives us the ability to adapt, to flow with change instead of fighting against it. It allows us to love people deeply without needing to control them, to pursue success without being defined by it, and to experience emotions without being consumed by them. Think of the most resilient people you know. They aren't the ones who never face hardship. They're the ones who face it without being destroyed by it. They understand that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. They know that life is unpredictable, but they don't fight reality. They work with it. And the most successful people, they aren't the ones who desperately cling to their plans. They're the ones who remain open to new possibilities. They trust that even when things don't go as expected, something valuable can come from it. Detachment isn't passivity, it's power. The power to engage fully without being controlled by the need for a specific outcome. The power to love without clinging, to strive without desperation, to experience without attachment. Because the moment we let go of the illusion of control, we gain something far greater: freedom. Freedom to live, to grow, to move forward without fear. Freedom to experience life in its fullness without being trapped by our expectations. Freedom to embrace whatever comes, knowing that our peace isn't dependent on external circumstances. And in that freedom, we find the very thing we were searching for all along. Letting go is not losing, it's gaining space for something better. Our emotions are not commands to obey, but data to interpret. Trusting the process means valuing growth over instant results. And detachment is not about indifference, but about freedom. Freedom from unnecessary suffering, from expectations that hold us back, and from the illusion of control. Life is unpredictable. We will face challenges, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. But resilience isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about learning how to move through it without being consumed by it. It's about understanding that true strength comes from adaptability, that true success comes from growth, and that true peace comes from learning to let go. The people who thrive are not the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who embrace change, who release what no longer serves them, who trust the journey even when they can't see the destination. Because in the end, the real power isn't in holding on, it's in knowing when to let go.